who has worked with many experiencers here in South Florida, she told me that what my wife had was something called missing time. And she explained what it was because I wasn't aware of it. And then I was able then to put all the pieces together that for my wife, she had 45 minutes that were completely wiped away. And then I realized that, that's why there was so much confusion. Because for my wife, she had gone down the stairs. She had looked down. The dog was running around, fully healthy, and she started to celebrate. And to her, I still remained at the steps of the stairs. Mm-hmm. So that was our first experience, which was a miraculous healing by this non-human intelligent being. And where my wife was taken and relocated with our dog. And then when they were returned, the dog was completely healed. But unfortunately, my wife remained the same.
She was not turned into a teenager again.
No, and also she was still, I'll cut my comments short there.
Okay. So it was a unexpected outcome on a Sunday morning.
I had no conceptions that these things existed, Joe. And
so that was the first step. That started your journey.
Correct.
March
and then
2012.
Correct, March 4th of 2012. And to me, this is a Sunday morning, I believe, because I think that it was Saturday night when the dog got paralyzed. And so to me, I really did not associate this thing with UFOs at that point. Okay. I kind of thought maybe because it was a little craft that we saw inside our house, but I was looking at it more like a paranormal type of experience, like it was angelic or something like that. And then what happened was 2 months later, the dog, this is our dog now, she was, she lived for another 11 and a half months, very, very healthy. As a matter of fact, we brought her back to our vet because she was taking Viagra for her heart. She was taking diuretics to flush out the excess water in her system. So we thought that, she's now perfectly healthy. It might not be healthy for her to continue with this medication. So we brought her to our vet, and we didn't tell anything to our vet at that time. And he checked her out, and he says, look, to me, she's like perfectly normal. What the hell happened, And we said, we changed her diet. She said, no, that couldn't have been because she had, all these heart problems, and you just don't get better from these things, And I said, well, that's the only thing that happened. We changed her diet, But we fessed up almost a year later when, and he instructed us to stop giving her that medication. And so a year later, when all of a sudden the last 2 weeks, she totally deteriorated to the point where she became almost paralyzed in over a 2-week period. And that's when we brought her back to get euthanized. And that's when we told her, my wife and I. And he knew, he's known us for many years. He knows that we're both, rational, logical people. He knows I'm an attorney. He knows my educational background. And he just totally changed the subject. And then we continued with that discussion. And he just totally ignored us again. He just did not want to touch that topic.
Coming in from the chat room, we have a question for you, Ray. Did Mrs. Hernandez ever describe what she saw, experienced when she was, quote, taken, unquote?
No, she has absolutely zero memory during that time period. Absolutely nothing.
I've had missing time on 2 occasions. I have no memory of what happened. Although on one of these events, my coworker described his having an onboard experience while I was, quote, left in the vehicle. So I am familiar with missing time, and it's a break in the continuity of consciousness that you cannot describe, you have no memories of, and yet it happened.
Yep, most definitely. So what happened, Joe, after that, our dog woke my wife up at 3:30 in the morning. My wife then led the dog out to go to the back door because we have a little doggy door in the back. She didn't want to go through that back door. She was jumping on the front door. Our dog never did that unless, we had a chain and she knew we were going for a walk or going in the car. So she was jumping up on the front door. My wife opened the door. She went down 3 or 4 steps we live in a cul-de-sac, to the front of our cul-de-sac. And she heard a noise, very large noise. She said it was like a 747 jet, right directly above her. And she said that lasted for about a minute. And then when she looked up, it was a huge, gigantic craft. And she said, "Oh, last night the angels came and visited to me. They came in this huge, beautiful craft. It had colors just like the stained glass windows of our church, you know." And then she went on and on. And I said, "That wasn't, your angels. What you saw was a UFO craft," because I asked her to draw it, and it was this huge, gigantic blimp, multicolored on the edges. And so then I knew was UFO related. And then about a month and a half later, she went to Mexico. She stayed there for an entire month, and she had like numerous experiences, both direct contact experiences with human-looking beings. They were 8 to 9 feet tall, dressed in white monk's robes that floated in front of her. There was 3 of them. And she called down crafts a couple of times, and they appeared.
When you say call down, you mean she requested to have a sighting in the presence of other people, and they manifested?
Well, let me describe the first time. The first time she was on the roof of her sister's house, and she was looking in Mexico, in Veracruz, Mexico, and she wanted to see her angels. You know, because that's how she sees them, 100% angelic. And then she was up there for half an hour, just, praying to see them again. And they didn't show up. But then she went downstairs. And then like an hour and a half later at the 11 o'clock news, her sister was calling her. Dulce, come here, Dulce, Dulce, Dulce. And then she showed her the 11 o'clock news. And the 11 o'clock news was UFO over Veracruz Airport stops airport traffic for almost an hour. We have 3 reporters at the scene, 2 at the airport. We have 1 at the Malecón, which is like the harbor. So she saw that reporting. And then in the major newspapers of Veracruz, that was the headline story. They had pictures. They even had videos on YouTube. So my wife never told anyone, until the couple of days later, or the next day, I think it was the baptism party of her brother's daughter, and there she met a cousin of hers, a second cousin of hers that she hadn't seen in many, many years, and that was the topic of conversation. And so at the table, the second cousin said, "Look, I see these UFOs all the time. As a matter of fact, I have communication with these entities all the time as well. As a matter of fact, they cured me of a major illness I had in her throat. I don't know if it was throat cancer." That they put in
Who was this individual again?
It was her cousin. It was a female.
How old?
Goodness, I think she was early 40s, about the same age as my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So then my wife said, "Look, can I talk to you in private?" And then my wife told her all the experiences that she was having. So then what had happened was that then they both said, "Okay, tonight when we leave the party, or no, not tonight, tomorrow night when they leave the party, let's try to call down a craft. We're going to be going in separate directions." My wife was going up to the hilly area of Veracruz, which is, I guess, the differences in temperatures like Miami to San Francisco because it's so high up. So my wife was going in that direction to stay with another sister, and her cousin was going down the coast. So they said, "Look, at 9 o'clock, let's have an intention now to call a craft out to appear at 9 o'clock for tomorrow. And then we'll talk and see what happens." Because I've done that before, and it happens. It appears like you've done it as well.
Yeah.
So, both of them did that. So the next day, there was a 2-car caravan that was going up to Jalapa, which is the capital of Veracruz. And it's part of that route is very, very rural. And so these 2 cars, she was driving, her sister was driving the car. She was in the passenger seat. In the back were her 2 daughters, my wife's nieces. One was, I think, like 20 years old, and the other one was like 16 years old. And then in the back, there were 4 professionals. They were husband and wife dentists, this lady who's an architect, and this other lady who is an attorney in Mexico. And his sister is an attorney as well. So all of them saw this UFO craft, purplish in color, descend from the sky, very close, beam down a blue light in front of the lead car, as the car was still traveling. Everyone saw this